we're talking about smart cities and the evolution of smart cities. And I have an incredible number of panelists on the panel today. I have Dr. Jonathan Reichental, author of Smart Cities for Dummies. He's also ex-CIO for City of Palo Alto, a global keynote futurist. I have Christos Cabolis. He's chief economist and head of operations, IMD World Competitiveness Center. He's also editor of 16 Shades of Smart, contributor to the Smart City Index. I have Leonie van der Buken, Amsterdam Smart City Program Director. She knows everything that should happen in a smart city, why it should happen. And I have Jeremy Prince, president of Sigfox, one of the largest IoT companies out there that are actively working in the area of smart cities. We have Q&A happening. If you have, I can see there's people logged in from Collingwood, Ontario. Hey, Greg, I have Greg from South Florida. We've got Adam from Dubai. We've got Siot from Colombia. So we have tons and tons of people from different parts of the world. This is truly an international conference. You can put questions down there on the panel, on the comment section, and we will populate these questions on the screen. So without any further ado, let me do a round of quick intros and let's get some initial insights from everybody. So Jonathan, let me ask you first. You're writing a book on the evolution of smart cities. You're talking about what smart cities are going to be or not going to be. Help us understand where are we headed, initial thoughts, and then we'll get into the deeper discussions.
Great. Well, thanks, Ian, for doing this. You're doing a wonderful job of keeping people connected during this crisis. And also happy Earth Day. It's the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. So I hope you're doing something and everyone, all your viewers are doing something positive today for our wonderful, wonderful planet. You know, probably the best way to start this conversation real briefly is just by giving a definition of what a smart city is. You know, one of the things I found in my research, and I've researched this deeply, there's no agreed definition, and that's okay because we're still in the early days of the emergence of smart cities. But I will say just kind of two things about it. One is smart cities are about using technology and you know, updated processes to improve workability, livability, and sustainability. And I take that definition from the Smart Cities Council primarily. But I also see smart cities as a response. They're a response to some of the significant challenges we face. That challenge could be climate change. And by the way, with most humans living in cities in the future, if we're going to solve climate change, we're going to solve it in cities. So climate change or the climate crisis and smart cities, to me, are very intersected. They're a response to issues like inclusion or the lack of inclusion. Lack of equity in our society, more efficient government, so that services are lower cost and more pleasant when you're dealing with your local government, better transportation, that type of thing. So if we look at the global, you know, smart cities movement broadly in the world, it's very uneven. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of cities in the world, and when someone lists like what are the top cities doing really interesting things, they can maybe list 5 or 10 or 20. Well, that's not a lot relative to the scale of cities in the world. So every city is in a different place. So my definition, really, by the way, which I should have answered earlier, is I did it to kind of to sort of narrow it down to sort of make sense of it for an individual city is what's important for that city, what's important for them to deliver. And respond to their community to increase quality of life. And so we're on this sort of continuum, and I'm sure in this conversation we'll talk about specific examples and where ultimately all this is headed, and particularly in a post-COVID world. Oops. Hi, Ian. Little issue there with your sound, I believe.
It was a little bit of a Mickey Mouse touch. We can't understand what you're saying. You come out as a squeaking Mickey Mouse.
Phil.
Well, I think we all need a good laugh during these tough times, so this is quite funny.
Indeed, indeed.
Poor Ian.
Should we pass on the question to someone else?
Yeah,
Maybe
why don't we just go to yourself, Leona?
Yeah.
Well, I could do so as well. Thank you. I loved your talk, your definition of smart cities, and even the last one. Like a smart city it's very different for every city to be. Like for us in Amsterdam, to start with that, it's not only about a smart city, but much more about a wide region. And we have this focus point on this region, as Amsterdam is not such a big city. So if we keep within the boundaries, the constitutional governmental boundaries of the city, we are not looking far enough. So for mega cities, you can look to a smart city as such, but we look really interconnected on a regional scale. Because, for example, when Amsterdam raises their parking fees, that hurts the society about inclusion in the little villages nearby. People at that point will not be able anymore to visit the city. So what smart city is about is exactly what you said. How can smart technology and data help us to keep this vibrant city like we knew for a couple of weeks ago? And how can smart technology be of help, and not the only thing, but of course a help in facing the challenges in addressing the challenges we face, like the climate crisis, like we need to have some more circularity and energy transition, different phases of mobility. So for me, that's what smart city is about. It needs not only to be smart, but it needs to be wise. It needs to be adaptive to the region and the needs of that place. And it needs to be about people of all, because what cities are defined by is the vibrance, the interaction, the serendipity, the people meeting each other. So whatever we do with smart technology, it has to be people first, and also to inspire to have smart citizens. And what we've learned from COVID right now is if you don't have access to digital tools, you get left out. So it's about inclusive cities as well, and having a smart technology acceptable and feasible for all. So just for a start.
Thank you, Leonie. Can you folks hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry about that. And if it happens, just please carry on the conversation. It's what we're dealing with. Christos, back to you. You're up next. Tell us about your initial idea of what a smart city is.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for inviting me, Ian, and greetings to all the people around the world who see us and listen to us. I will echo essentially what the previous two speakers said, Jonathan and Leone. We started this project at the IMD in Lausanne and the Singapore University of Technology and Design in Singapore, trying to explore, of course, what exactly smart cities are. And the reason is obvious. More than half of the world population lives in urban environments. And then once one tries to use a definition, comes to the problems that Leone and Jonathan mentioned, that there's not really one definition. We use a general definition similar to the one that Jonathan is using, essentially cities that are using technology to improve the benefits of living in a city and reduce the negative externalities, the costs of living in a city. And we started by trying to find out what some cities thought about themselves and what they projected of themselves, and they called themselves smart, so to speak. And we came up with the outcome that one size does not fit all. And essentially, different cities that belong in different regions, as Leona said, but also that they belong in a different development level, have different needs, they have different concerns, they have different challenges. And depending on the challenges, we found out by studying 16 cities from around the world that we see some similarities. So we see some cities, especially the ones that are not that highly developed, to use smart initiatives in a top-down process. So all the initiatives come from above. And then we saw the other extreme, cities which belong in the more economically developed groups. Essentially, that what comes out is that most of the initiatives are bottom-up. They include much more active citizen groups, and they bring up the issues that they would like to find solutions of. And in the end of the day, even though, and we can discuss, I'm sure later, even though we found that challenges are multiple, the interesting common ground is that all of them are actually centered in sustainability. Sustainability is the essence of what smart cities are. We also found out that smart city actually is a journey. It's not a destination. It is not something unique that we try to reach. And once we reach it, then we are very happy and we enjoy ourselves. On the contrary, and in fact, we are living exactly in a situation like that. There are issues that are coming up that challenge all the principles, values, and technological structures that we had, and we need to address them. And
we're going to get deeper into that. Thank you, Christos, for that initial thought. We're going to get deeper into technology, pandemics, the design of smart cities, the challenges of smart cities. Let me tell you an interesting thing after I've had Jeremy on. Jeremy, you are with Sigfox. You guys do technology. You are a tech company. What role does technology play in a smart city?
So thanks for inviting me, first of all, and I'm honored to be among such great guests. One thing I would like to start with is we're talking about smart cities here, and I would probably, and we can see that everyone is coming up or trying to come up with a definition, and it's quite complicated to really get the whole aspect of it. I would maybe push it a little, and I would talk about smart societies rather than smart cities, because everything is coming together. And when we talk about smart cities, I suppose people would expect probably the municipality to be leading, and what we see on the field, and I noticed that Christos mentioned bottom-up approaches and initiatives. I think that's the key. Smart city is not the result of one player, i.e. the municipality, trying to put something in place. It's more the result of different things combining, and we're not leading towards a smart city, but probably more towards a smart society, where you're going to have the city, you're going to have the businesses, you're going to even have the individuals that will be increasingly using technology and connecting. So that is something that I just wanted to also put there to be a bit open the debate even in a wider way. And also two things that were mentioned a lot were talking about sustainability, using technology to improve things. And of course, as you mentioned, Sigfox is a tech company, so we love and live technology. We just also have got to keep in mind that what we put in place, the remedy must not be worse than what we're trying to cure. Not talking about COVID there, but could apply. So when we're talking about sustainability, I am strongly convinced that IoT can do a lot, technology can do a lot, but we've got to be careful that we're not putting in place networks that are harming, doing more harm than good. We've got to be careful that when we deploy thousands, hundreds of thousands of sensors, we're making sure that they're not also going to bring a lot of pollution. So that can be also complicated questions when we're saying we try to improve things. And that's something we always try to have in mind and the heart of our technology. And of course, because I probably will come, the other as a question, and I like to put it in front, there's also the question of privacy and how we deal with all that.
We're going to get into privacy in a few minutes, Jeremy, but I just wanted to capture that initial thought from you. Thank you for sharing that. There are so many topics that I want to talk about. I think we are not going to be able to do it in the time we have, but we're going to try and squeeze everything in. I want to thank all our viewers, first of all, who have joined in. Sharti, Prakash, Dr. Vignesh, Shiva. There's people from Azerbaijan, Colombia, different places of the world who are joining in today to hear from all of you and to understand what smart cities is. My initial thought and my understanding right now, and based on some hate mail that I got on Facebook when I was promoting this this panel, was that there's a huge misconception of smart cities. People feel smart cities are about surveillance states, smart cities are about controlling people, smart cities are about stealing people's data, they're not safe, they're not good, and these are big misconceptions that smart cities have with them right now. I think we have to clear that today in many, many different ways. We're going to get into something very relevant. It's COVID-19, and let's start there. Let's start with COVID-19 and the impact it's been having on cities, urban centers, towns. It has leveled everything in terms of there's no differentiation. However, cities are being affected more because they're more they're more denser with respect to population and so on and so forth. Can we design cities to be pandemic proof in the future? And if yes, what would that mean? Would it mean more technology? Would it mean more something else? Leonie, why don't you take that? You're heading Smart City Amsterdam. You're building the city. You're in charge of a city development, a smart city. What is it going to take for us to design a city that's pandemic proof?
Wow, I've been thinking about that for all day now. Just for one thing to be clear, I'm head of Amsterdam Smart City, which is an international independent organization. So I'm not from the city of Amsterdam, though the city of Amsterdam is one of my main partners. And it's like Jeremy said it, we are a cooperation between the government, big companies, small companies, citizens, and societal organizations like the Waag Institute, for example, who really think about privacy and autonomy. So that's for first. So I'm not building a city, I'm just helping my city and the cities all over the world as we work internationally to be these smart, wise societies, which are not scary. Because of course you get this hate mail because lots of smart technology has in itself that it can get very scary. Then you do not lose only your privacy, but even more so your autonomy. So we should be careful about it, and we always are at Smart City at least. So becoming pandemic proof, I'm afraid it's just not possible to be a city and pandemic proof. We might get pandemic resilient, and we might get even during times of COVID with the right use of technology, we might get some vibrancy and some serendipity back into our streets. So that's what we are hoping for now, is how could tracing apps help us to get a faster understanding of who's sick and who might be at risk? How can crowd management be put in place rightly so that's not crowd control, which is scary, but can be crowd support, which can be helpful. So people can know where it's too busy to go and where it's safe to go. How could we have what cities all over the world are doing now, rethink their mobility, open up, get cars out of the streets and open the streets up for all the cyclists. Because the moment we in Amsterdam are going back to our work offices again, I cannot go even by bike to my office. Because the moment I get at a traffic light, I can't be there at 1.5 meter. So we need to put all our technology and logistical systems in to have time frames in when who can go out. So for me, it's just a few first thoughts, and it would all be about resilience, adaptivity, using technology again being a society.
Yeah.
So not the government only, not the tech only, but a cooperation of them all. And I can go into that later. The Dutch government has tried to do Epiphone. It failed for reasons, but it also succeeded, and we can go in that later. But as a society, we need to be adapting and adopting and improving. Like Jeremy also said, it's a journey.
Yeah.
And I really hope, the essence of a city where you bump into each other and have the serendipity, for the time being, it's too dangerous. So we need to rethink stuff.
I want to take that thought. Thank you, Leonie. And I stand corrected on your role. You're not with the City of Amsterdam, but you're with Smart City Amsterdam, which brings together different bodies to create ideas and thoughts and policy and so on for the future. I want to take that question to Jonathan. Jonathan, you're writing a book, Smart Cities for Dummies, for people like myself who don't understand anything about smart cities. Are you going to put in a chapter on pandemics, disease, how to avoid it, how to design a city that can be resilient to all this black swan event, something like that?
Well, I'm seriously thinking about it. I'm not sure that it's a full chapter, but I'm certainly going to make mention of disease management and sort of anticipating crises more generally. One of the ways to think about the future is to understand the past, and it's probably hard for us to imagine it right now. A lot of us who live in big modern cities, how bad cities were just 100, 150 years ago. I mean, they really were a cesspool of disease. I mean, they were terrible places to live for the most part. And there was open sanitation, disease was rampant. There was really no effective healthcare. And what did we do? Well, we built better sanitation systems. We provided clean drinking water. We did things. We cleaned up the streets. And so I think one of the things we can learn from that as we head into the future is, what are the behaviors that we still do today in our cities that are probably not great for our future? And one of those things is these live markets, right? And the things that we consume. So my view, and maybe it's unpopular, is number one, being Earth Day, we really ought to be eating less meat or no meat at all. I know that'll be a tough one to swallow for most people, but should we be eating exotic animals too? I mean, we have the evidence. We know that, because of camels, because of birds, because of bats and all sorts of things, because we eat those and we live with them in some countries in the world, this creates disease. So we can do a lot in the future to clean up, make our cities more hygienic. I think that's one of the things we can do. I love Leona's point about resilience. And one of the things I think about and reflect on during this crisis is we weren't ready. We had a lack of imagination that this was possible. Yeah. We need to build into our cities as a priority resilience. And by the way, we don't want to be talking about another crisis a year from now after another huge earthquake. We don't have any resources for people. We have a disruption to the supply chain, or an accident that spews chemicals into the air. Things are going to happen. Crises are going to happen. And one of the ways that we help create a better future is to take these things seriously, broaden our imagination, and have resilience plans.
Totally
Thank
agree.
you, Jonathan. Thank you. I appreciate it. I want to ask Christos, as you created this, the 16 Shades of Smart, you worked on the Smart City Index. Did you see any cities that were really ready to deal with something like a COVID-19? Some cities were more prepared. What does it take? Is it just infrastructure? Is it technology? Or is it how the city is managed? And we have some really great examples of technologically forward cities in the world from, I'm not specifically talking about surveillance states, but Barcelona, super connected, IoT connected, lampposts have Wi-Fi, and few of those things. Did you find any cities in your index that potentially would be much prepared for this?
Well, let's take a step back. Let's first speak about the index that we have created. And just to reflect what the other speaker said, what we realized is that in the end of the day, as very correctly was said, cities should incorporate the citizens. It should be a multi-agent framework which takes into consideration the citizen-centric role of a city. And in that respect, we realize that most of the rankings that are around, and we definitely need rankings, because unless we quantify certain things, we're not going to be able to improve upon them. So most of the rankings that were around did not have the voice of the citizens in the calculation. So what we created was literally an index that takes into consideration the perceptions of the residents of a particular city. So we are asking them questions about what the infrastructure is in 5 different pillars. And then we try to see what is the technology that is used in order to address these challenges, if there are challenges. Going now, so this is the framework of the index. Have we seen cities which are very advanced with respect of fulfilling these obligations? Absolutely. And many cities have a very, very good framework of incorporating technology to alleviate many of the challenges for the citizens. Now, is there a way to say whether they were prepared about COVID-19? I think the answer is all around us. It's not only cities that were not prepared, countries were not prepared. We realize that there is no blueprint in any safety agency of any country that dealt with this issue. On the contrary, we see a complete surprise, which surprises us much more, I think, and creates a very uneasy feeling. So I wouldn't put per se the weight on the cities, because let's not forget cities are part of in most cases, almost all, are part of a bigger construction, which is a nation, a country. And what we see, and we will discuss about it later on, is a complete lack of collaboration and a complete lack of coordination. And this can be in a country level, it can be in a region, and it can be within a particular city with all the agencies that are available.
Thank you, Christos. Hey, Jeremy, as a technology company, as a technologist, it's obvious that you're thinking many years ahead in the future, right? You're not just thinking next year. So as you look at working with smart cities of the world, enabling technology, where do you think we're headed? I mean, do you think us using technology and sensors to be able to, let's say 20 years from now, being able to design cities where pandemics can be detected? Of course, crowd movement, people's movement is detected now. Where are we headed with respect to being able to use technology and the design of smart cities?
I think no one doubts that technology is going to grow. And once again, and I like Christos was mentioning, we need coordination. And once again, we're going back to not being smart cities, but smart societies. And no doubt our societies will be more and more technological and more connected. And I mean, some of us on this call are starting to get older. And if you think of what it was like 40 years ago and what it's like today, it's already incredible. And Jonathan was mentioning cities 150 years ago. Well, not even 150 years ago. I mean, London post World War II had such pollution problems that it was a permanent fog due to pollution. So yes, we're definitely going towards technology. One of the challenges there is also that we mustn't forget that all cities, all countries can't adopt technology at the same rhythm. Christos was talking about the most advanced cities, but we mustn't forget the less advanced cities. And I think that technology must also be able to deliver some services, some data, because we're talking about data, to those cities. And that's also part of the equation. Is we can't only have the leading wealthy cities moving forward and the rest of the world being forgotten. So technology must be for all. Of course, there will be different levels. Sorry for making that one, that comment. The other thing we were talking about, and Ian, it's you said, what more do we need? Sorry, I heard the word resilience. I heard the word preparation. I heard. I think one of them is also adoption. Technology mustn't be against the people, because I can see some of the comments there and some people being afraid about it. Technology must be with people and for people. So it's also a matter of adoption. It's got to be adopted. Today, if you look at confinement, and it's got nothing to do with technology, if people don't respect it, it doesn't work. So it's got to be adopted. Same thing for technology. So where are we going? Well, we can basically go everywhere. Will it allow, I'd say, virus-free, pandemic-free cities or societies? I'm afraid not, because a virus, if I can make the comparison, is a very smart technology too, and they adapt a lot. But it can surely improve a lot. And Leonie, you were talking about different things like crowd monitoring, like pollution, I think you mentioned, or was it Jonathan? There's a lot to do, and we can see it can be from temperature monitoring, simple cases. Sometimes you don't have to think science fiction and flying cars. It can be things like temperature monitoring. When you remote temperature monitoring, it's smart parking to avoid you having problems with your bicycle, Leonie. By the way, you shouldn't try cycling to work in Dallas or you'll get killed. But there are loads of things. Logistics is key. Today we can see that if logistics fail, and I won't go back to toilet paper, but we have problems. Technology can improve incredibly logistics, from toilet paper to vaccines, making sure that your vaccines are delivered, making sure that all along the line they stayed at the right temperature, that there was no shock. So I think that pandemic-free city is more a pandemic-free society, and it's got to be at every level. And very, very clearly, technology will be everywhere, and it's growing, and it will continue to grow. And we're talking logistics. I think, Jonathan, you were talking about preparation, being ready for the next crisis. Maybe it's not a virus, maybe it's pollution. And there also, that's going to hit us at one stage. And cities got to be ready for that. And it starts with monitoring pollution, collecting data to adapt the way you're. Sorry, Leonie wanted to, and I'm talking too much. My wife.
In the Netherlands, at least, we're facing a double crisis right now. It's not a crisis yet, but it's becoming to, as we have this very wonderful weather right now. It's beautiful spring, but so everyone is happy being stuck at home, but at least can go outside. But it hasn't rained for maybe 30 days now. So already we have forest fires. These few forests we have in the Netherlands already are burning. So there's an upcoming drought. And people are using more water than ever because everyone's at home. So it's not the next crisis I'm facing with at least my very happy, healthy, rich country already is facing a double crisis within a month. So we need to be ready and we need to be prepared. We need to be, like Christoph also said, to be collaborating with each other, to find ways of trusting each other. We cannot collaborate if we do not trust. If we do not trust the data everyone else is generating, how on earth can we face and become resilient? So I'm sorry to jump into, but I'm really worried. Because even on Earth Day, we need to act faster, independent, without our egos, and put this spot first, and start doing and trying and walking the journey.
Yeah, and once again, data collection technology can help do a lot to prevent, you were talking about fires, you were talking about floods, to make sure that we use also, we avoid, I mean, just leak monitoring. I don't have the number, but I'm sure someone knows how much water is wasted in the world per day because there are leaks, because your toilet is leaking, because there's a leak somewhere. So there are lots of things that can be done, and there are lots of things that are already being done. Sorry. One thing I insist on, because it's Earth Day, so we're skipping, is that the technology must be helping. It mustn't. I know there are debates about 5G, things like that. So we also got to make sure that the technology itself is sustainable. Sorry.
Yeah, totally agree. Because technology in itself uses energy, it uses plastics, it uses natural resources. So whenever we use technology, the benefit should be bigger than the problem it is solving. It's not generating new problems in itself. Totally agree.
Christos, go ahead.
Just to bring into our discussion, I think I am very sympathetic with everything that John and Jeremy said, and Jonathan earlier. And I would very much would like to see solutions towards the big issues that you said, the climate change, congestion, and so on and so forth. There is a significant difference, I think, between the crisis that we are facing now and the issues that we are discussing. And this is that for these issues, there has been a lot of research. We have different opinions, but in some ways, most of the world at least agrees upon certain metrics where we would like to go. We may disagree maybe worldwide on the level, but nevertheless, we know that these issues are there. COVID-19 brought something completely different in our lives. I mean, if you think about cities, why do people go into an urban environment? Because being in an urban environment, in fact, you are able to increase the quality and the options that you have on goods and services. And you do that by taking advantage of those. Right now, how do we cope with the crisis that we have? Actually, we completely remove ourselves from the cities. Yeah. We were discussing before the program started that all of us are confined in our own places. And therefore, this particular issue is completely different than anything that we dealt before. And this brings an urgency and uniqueness that we didn't have in all these other cases. So going back to the issues that you brought again, when we are saying resilience, I think that for the city framework, it's not only resilience on issues that we know and maybe we can decide upon what we will do, but maybe be a little bit more prepared on issues that potentially we don't expect. Like what we have right now, which basically stresses our ability. So cities are completely stressed with their ability to confront the sick people they have. What do you do with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
You need to adapt very fast. You need to have ideas. We see ideas about both the issue of the health services, but also the very big problem of the economy. But sometimes another problem that comes along is the implementation. Good ideas may exist, but then it's kind of difficult to make them work. And I think that technology may save on that. The other issue that is very important, I think, is that in some respect, we are called to adapt to new technological innovations that we may have discussed in the past for several years, but then we have to adapt almost instantaneously. So there are all these new devices, there are all these new programs that they're proposed in order to give solutions, but there are many implications on that, and we don't have time to discuss or even acknowledge them.
Christos, I wanted to ask Jonathan something on what you just mentioned, but he's vanished away from the screen. I'm going to come back to you, Christos. I do have a question for you. I want to take a quick look at some of the questions that are coming in, because some of them are very relevant to what you were just saying. In the meantime, first of all, we have tons of people who've joined in. We've got Olga from Russia, we've got Anastasia from Greece. Lots of people have joined in. Somebody from Berlin, and I'm waiting for Jonathan to join back. But we have somebody from Mexico City. Tons and tons of people have joined in from across the world. So thank you so much, panelists, for being part of this conversation. Jonathan, I want to take what Christos was mentioning about resilience, and what Leonie mentioned as well, that it's about the people. It's about, it's more than just technology. All due respect to technology. In your research for your book, have you seen any stories of resilience that cities have built, whether they're smart or not is the secondary? What have you seen that's changing out there? And what I want to get into is the mindset. Do cities need to have a mindset in order to become smart and go into that direction? I cannot hear you, Jonathan.
Yep,
go ahead.
I'm on now. Yep, thank you. Great question. I may drop off here, which I'm going to actually leverage as a point, which is one of the things we've discovered is how important the internet is in our lives, right? If there's anything we probably underappreciated, it's the internet now. And so as I think about resilience, I think about having a global network that's available to everybody and has good bandwidth and good redundancy. We started to roll out the internet commercially in the 1990s, and the project is barely half done. This morning, a little less than half the world woke up and didn't have internet access. And so we have a lot of work to do to bring internet to a lot of different types of communities, including some parts of cities. And in those cities that have internet access and may have good penetration, what is surprising often is it's not evenly distributed relative to bandwidth. So even in a big modern city like San Jose or San Francisco, we have a number of people who don't have access, and then we have people who only have dial-up or pretty slow access. The question about have cities done remarkable things, I'm going to sort of give a shout out to Amsterdam. And, I visited many times, one of my favorite cities, and it's the city of canals. Yeah. Well, the canals are a smart city innovation. They were there to combat the continual and excessive flooding that the city experienced. And it works. It works. So smart city technology takes many forms. And so we need to, in my research, what I found was not enough cities are thinking that resilience is part of the smart city agenda. And well, look, I think we've all woken up to that now. It absolutely is. So hopefully that's, again, one of the benefits we get from this unfortunate crisis is that we make resilience a priority.
Thank you, Jonathan. I want to move gears, and we have so many comments that are coming in. A good friend of mine, Anita Sengupta, says smart city mindset, minimizing carbon footprint, energy positive, open source. Those are such great ideas, and I think they have to be part of any smart city. I want to kind of go back to what we're talking about here. We're talking about a smart city. Smart city necessarily is not a place where you have so much automation that and you don't have control on your data, on your life. I think a smart city is about enhancing the lives of people who live there, the residents who live there, making the environment safer, making it more efficient, making it more accessible. And a lot of different components come together: transportation, healthcare, the real estate, the different industries come together to make a city smart. It's not just one thing that can make a city smart. I think we're seeing an uptake in some new smart cities that are coming up. We have Dubai that's focusing on smart city development. We have Baku in Azerbaijan that's becoming a smart city through the implementation of technology. And these are personal cases that I work with. We also have this huge smart city that's coming up in Saudi Arabia. And this is a $500 billion, the name is escaping me, Jonathan, what's it called? NEOM, yes. So NEOM is a $500 billion smart city that's coming up. And so there's many different elements to a smart city. I think at the end of the day, it is about people. It is about people who live there, co-inhabit there, have businesses there, work in these cities, for who the city is being made smart. I think that's how we are looking at it. Let me take a few questions. We have about 10, 12, 15 minutes left. Let me take some questions. Okay, we have Ainur who says, I think as long as humans are living, it is impossible to have a city free of pandemics, but at least we can take action against this process and be prepared for the next type of situation. We covered that. Somebody is talking about resilience. Greg says there's a need to become global citizens and accept that accountability that comes with that. We are all Earthlings. Well, this is Earth Day. Who wants to answer that? Do we need accountability in order to have a smart city mindset? Who should have that accountability? Citizens, governments, municipalities? Who wants to take that question? Go ahead, Jeremy.
I don't think I can take that question, but I can maybe initiate the answer by first of all mentioning that most of the problems that cities face have already got technological answers. I mean, we talk about traffic, it's a big problem. There are traffic monitoring solutions that exist. There are smart parking solutions that exist. We're talking about security. We have got solutions to monitor bridges. We've seen in Italy, thanks to the pandemic, lately a bridge collapsed and there was almost no one on it. So at least one positive impact of the COVID. There are solutions to monitor remotely those structures. There are solutions for security, gunshot detection, etc. So there are loads of solutions out there. It's also a matter of cities engaging and going down that path. What we see and what we struggle with sometimes is that decision-making in cities is a long process, is a complicated process. So the solution, and budget-wise also, maybe this will change, but it's not always their top priority. So for this to happen, you need some people to lead it. And if you're talking about smart cities, the mayor and the municipality must be part of those leaders. So they must engage, they must push that way. And of course you'll need the citizens, etc. I wanted to initiate that.
Thank you, Jeremy. I have a question from somebody from Amsterdam. It's Theodore from Amsterdam, who's asking, how do we make sure communities support and enable rather than compete with each other in becoming smart or responsive? Leonie, let's put that question to you. You're in the Netherlands as well. What is the answer to that?
I wish I had the answer just like that, because this is at least exactly what we are hoping, what we're striving for, being an independent foundation. Because I hope people can leave their ego at home. Of course, you have your ego and your stuff, but it's far more interesting to put your knowledge, your experience, your unique capabilities onto the table. And like we are doing today, having this exchange of ideas, learning from each other, praising each other, and learning. So what at least I do, I can only say what we try to do is always have, when we bring groups together, it's more or less the same what you are doing, Ian, is build this community of trust, build this community of respect, helping people to embrace your own imperfections, because I'm not perfect, I can only see this. And when you embrace your own imperfections, you might be able to embrace the imperfections of the other one, and then we can really help each other. The moment you get to realize that you cannot solve the problem by yourself, that you need help, and that it's fun to be helped, and it's fun to help out. Two examples which we're doing now in Amsterdam, I would like to address. One is, again, how to become, to help not only a smart city, but a smart society, a smart citizen. Within this region, with Waag Society as well, we have people have constructed environmental measurement systems for the citizens. So now the citizens are sensing their own city, and they are discovering that it's not only the industry which is polluting the air, but also the barbecue at your backyard. And they have this joint fact finding with the government So it's about empowering not only the government, but also the citizens. So empowering each other, that would be a great one. And I had a second example, which I just forgot. But I think this what we're doing here, it's about helping each other and wanting it. And I think it starts by everyone itself. Again, with this accountability, maybe we should not be accountable, at least be responsible and feel responsible, not only for, oh, now I know, sorry for being so long. What we've discovered in the Netherlands just now, 2 weeks ago, our Ministry of Economic Affairs said, if every sector can make a plan on this 1.5 economy, we might be able to open up our streets and our homes again. So all sectors did, the theaters, even airplane companies, and so forth, everyone did. But what they left out is it's not about the 1.5 economy, it's about the 1.5 society. So if all have these plans for their own business, that might work, but it does not work on the streets. The interconnection does not work. So again, we need communities to cooperate, because that's the only way we're going to get out on the streets again. If everyone keeps in its own silo, then we get stuck.
Thank you. Christos, I have a question for you, and this is around governance, and please make it brief because we're going to get into the final round after you're done. And this question is around governance. Somebody just asked, Sharti is asking, how about governance? Smart cities can collect data as needed without the concern of people who live there. How secure is it? You know, is it, what will happen in the future when it comes to data? Help us understand the role of data, because you've collected so much data as part of the Smart City Index. What role will information and data play in smart city development? You've got to open up your microphone, Christos.
Thank you. Sorry. That's a very good question. And in fact, it integrates what we were discussing the last 5 or 10 minutes, because governance is of paramount importance. And why is it of paramount importance? Because we are discussing about smart cities as being an area where we try to improve the lives of the stakeholders. And the stakeholders are the citizens, it's the government, it's the municipality, it's the companies, actually, the private sector that introduces the technology. And in that respect, the good governance, of course, requires accountability that you mentioned before. What exactly is the accountability? Every stakeholder, depending on the responsibility that it has, must have accountability towards that. However, how do we reach the level of good governance? And precisely what the person who is following us essentially implies, one of the very, very big issues that we have right now, and I hope that Jeremy will speak about that, is the issue of the trade-off between surveillance to improve the way that we deal with the virus and privacy. And we see that in different regions and different countries, this trade-off is completely different. In the end of the day, how we will find the optimal trade-off, in fact, if we have trust. And trust is the important ingredient of good governance.
Yeah.
Thank you, Christos. That makes perfect sense. I want to go into the final round of our discussion. It's been incredible speaking with all of you. I'm reading some of the comments. It's just so funny, and because we're not in a very formal environment, when my voice went funny earlier, I have such funny comments from people. Some thought it was a rubber duck. Some are saying Chip and Dale. It just made me laugh. I just wanted to share that. But hey, we're dealing with technology. We're dealing with different bandwidths, and everybody's in a different place, from Amsterdam to Switzerland to Jeremy. Where are you?
I'm in Dallas, as you can hear, pure Texan accent.
You're in Dallas. And Jonathan is in San Francisco, so we're connecting everybody from across the world. And I want to thank all of our viewers for hanging in there and going through my Chip and Dale voice in the beginning. I really, really do appreciate it. Please subscribe to my channel in order to receive updates next time. We have live stream panels happening every week on different industries. Some exciting stuff is coming up in the next few weeks, but please subscribe to this channel so that you know what's going on. I want to get in the final phase. There's far too many questions that we haven't answered, but I want to get in final phase. Give us your top 3 recommendations of how people in the world should look at smart cities, what they should do to understand them better, maybe to be part of their smart cities within their region, within their cities. What are the 3 things you would suggest? And starting from each of you, what is it that people should do right now to make their lives better in the future? Let's start with Jonathan. Okay,
I'll try to be real rapid. We talked about open data or data in general. One of the things that cities have in abundance is data. Many cities are making that data easily accessible. So I really would recommend that people look at that data, analyze it to understand their city and their communities better, and even develop solutions. Don't wait for government, because it may not be coming. Write the solutions yourself. Another thing you can do is change your behaviors relative to transportation. So if you can walk somewhere, walk somewhere. If you can get public transport, use public transport. And by the way, if those things are difficult to do or not available to you, go to your city council, go to your elected leaders and ask for it. A lot of people feel that they're not empowered. The reality is, in our democracies generally, and particularly at the local level, you have a lot more power than you think. And it doesn't have to be in the form of protest. You can just turn up at a council meeting and make your point and have that debate and continue to press forward. So that's the second item. The third one I'm just going to leave. I'd like to repeat it again, because people always ask me, what can they do to address the climate crisis? What can they do personally? And I always say the very easiest thing that you can start today is eat less meat. Thanks for the opportunity, Ian.
You're very welcome, Jonathan. Jeremy, let's have top 3 points from you. What should we do to make a better future right away?
Okay, so first of all, I'm going to cancel my barbecue. But more seriously, number one, I think the technology is already there. It's coming. And the first thing maybe is embrace it. Don't reject it. Don't be scared of it. But to Christos's point, embracing it means that you're an active part of it. You understand it. You try to make sure that it stays under control. So embracing also means that as an individual, you must be aware of what's going on and be careful, basically, be vigilant. And that would be maybe my second point. To everyone collectively, we need to be vigilant. So everyone from individual to cities to organizations, let's embrace technology, but let's be vigilant about data that Christos was mentioning, about doing more good than bad by what technology you're implementing, etc. And it's maybe not the third point. I don't know if it's at an individual level, but Jonathan mentioned the importance of the network being up and running. And we need to make sure that we have got a network and at large, so it includes several networks that is there and that is resilient also, because probably when a catastrophe comes, it might harm the networks. How do we make sure that what enables those technologies stays there? And we're working with the 0G and trying to aggregate to have that basic layer to build on top of it. But I think those are my 3 points. Sorry.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you. I am out of time, so I don't want to hold anybody here against their wish. Christos, real quick, top 3 points.
So 3 things you said. The first one is how to become more resilient. And I will end by bringing what Jonathan said in the beginning, that sometimes on how we can deal with a particular issue is trying to study what happened in the past. And I will add what is happening right now as well. So 2 examples. We're speaking about resilient technology. We already saw in Wuhan, for instance, in China, employing robots in order to disseminate the information that people needed to stay confined and so on and so forth, and employing drones to actually transport medical equipment around without putting people in danger. This is fascinating. So trying to understand what actually helps resilience and what not. Another issue is that, and just because Jeremy is from Texas, I was thinking, in the last 15 years, we had in the United States 2 major natural disasters, the Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Katrina. I have no doubt that cities put forward a plan on how to be resilient towards these endeavors. My question is, has this plan worked? If in few months, can we go and test the cities that had this plan versus the cities that didn't, and see whether there is any difference?
Christos, I go ahead, please conclude, and I will move on to Leonie, because
the second thing is that we need to be more keen in coordinating and collaborating. Very much in favor of this. Instead of speaking about smart cities, maybe we should speak about smart networks. And the last one is actually a statement that I would like to make in light of everything that goes on.
Please.
In the end of the day, we are social animals. Aristotle said that. And actually many other people say. And to be honest with you, even in the confinement that we are living, the fact that you see people clapping and making noise at a particular time in different cities, or a whole neighborhood singing a particular song in Italy or in Spain or anywhere else in the world, or all the funny things that we receive in terms of videos and vids in our cell phones every night. I think this is a tremendous indication of the society that we were discussing before, in some respect, really showing that we try to do our best in this virus that came along.
Thank you so much, Christos. Leonie, you get the final word. Top 3 suggestions, recommendations that we should do right away.
Yep, on smart cities. Thank you so much, first of all, for you, Ian, for the invitation, for my dear panelists and all the people present from all over the world. And one thing I'm very thankful of COVID. If anything else, it's a disaster. But at least now I got to join New York without having to fly, and that on Earth Day. So I'm really happy with that. My 3 points on smart cities, smart societies would be, first, keep being critical and vigilant. And these critical people, the one who send you hate mails, those are the ones who keep us alive. Those are the ones who keep on addressing about privacy and autonomy and about humanity. Because if we are not having this critical thought, tech will become strange and it will become a dystopia instead of a human, embracing, warm enabler of society. So be critical. The second one is be cooperative. You said this as well. Whether it's a smart city or wise city, a society, or just a normal neighborhood, be cooperative and share, help each other out. We need each other, and it's fun to. It's what defines us as humans. And the last point I would address: have fun. Let's try to keep having fun for several reasons, because it's nice to have fun, it's joyful. But for me, in the last 2 years I've been working on smart cities, I've learned creativity gets a real boost, and trust gets a real boost if it's a funny, lively experience. And someone mentioned something about kids. We had this day for Smart City Girls Challenge. These were kids of 11-year-old. And throughout the day, they designed traffic control systems to get them having biking safer. This was really about children, humanity, and have fun. So be critical, embrace each other, and have a nice day. And enjoy.
Thank you so much. I cannot thank all of you for being part of this live stream. the attendees for joining us and hanging in there. Please celebrate Earth Day. Please celebrate in whatever way you can. But all the insights, the final comments that everybody made, because of time constraints, I'm going to put them all on one sheet of paper, and they will be sent out to everybody who's part of this live stream. We'll do a one-page executive summary and send that out, because I don't want to spend more time here, because I know everybody's stretched for time. Thank you, everyone, for making this live stream possible. Please subscribe to my channel, and you will get updates on next time when a panel is live. You can engage, ask questions and answers, and I will put a link for everybody's profile in that one-page executive summary, so that you can connect with them on LinkedIn and ask them whatever you want. With that, thank you so much, everybody. Let's hope the cities of tomorrow are smart, safe, and help us do better things and be better people. Thank you so much. And this live stream is now over. You take care.